What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. Once again, back to millions, also Fans First Sports Network. If you're listening to us, you obviously know how to find us. But for those of you who know people that aren't listening to us, send them the show. We're everywhere. They like it YouTube, we got YouTube. They like Spotify, we got Spotify. Apple, doesn't matter. Share the show, we would appreciate it. But we're once again recording on Sunday night, the second episode, so you just heard how we're doing and what we're drinking. So we're just going to go right into the show for this one. We are doing our post-spring top 10. I changed mine a good bit. All overreaction. Just going to be honest. Like, I'm fully on board the hype train, but I got to do some more research, and y'all know I'm a damn nerd, so it'll be fun. So for mine, I got Georgia at number 1. We didn't see anything in the spring that made us question anything we had questions about before. None of them got bigger. If anything, they got answered. O-line looks good. Defensive backs look good. The RB room is strong. Still wish Andrew Paul was on the team. That's going to take a minute to get over. Maybe if he doesn't get a few offers in the next couple of weeks, he comes back home. I'd love that. Please.
I'm curious
But
where he's leaning, or if there's any inkling to where he's going to go. I'm just curious.
so after the report came out, he was entering the portal. I looked like 3 days later, and the recruiting sites don't put any transfer information on there until they're officially in the portal. And he was not in the portal as of like that Thursday. I don't know if he is
Hmm.
now because I haven't looked again. Um, but he was not officially in the portal yet. So fingers crossed. Stay home.
Yeah,
Texas, my number 2 team. I think their offense looks like a juggernaut. I truly believe that Ryan Wingo at wide receiver will win a Bolitnikoff award before his career is done. I think he's going to earn it. Sneaky pick. I don't know what the odds are, but if you can find odds, he's a sneaky pick for it this year because I truly think he's the best wide receiver in that room, and they're going to pass the ball a ton. That doesn't even talk about their great situation at quarterback. Quinn Ewers goes down. You have Arch Manning, who had to wait until the third quarter for one of his passes to hit the ground in the spring game. The running backs look like tight ends that are fast. I mean, imagine Brock Bowers lining up in the backfield every play. It's fairly scary. But I think their biggest concern is the secondary. And I'll be honest, if you're able to score 45 points per game, how much does it truly matter?
right.
Number 3, I got Ole Miss. I think they've got a top 3 talented roster in the country. They've got the ability to win every game on their schedule with that talent. The question is how much they gel going into the season. I think between Ole Miss and the next team I'm going to talk about, the reason that I put Ole Miss on top is because of their returning quarterback play.
For sure.
Next team, for you guys, it'll be a few days ago, but for us, we just finished the conversation. Ohio State, I think I moved them up mainly due to their additions in the portal and their new offensive coordinator. I say I moved them up. I don't remember what I had them at before. I feel like I think a lot more of them now than I did a couple months ago. Um, but their additions in the portal and the new offensive coordinator and Chip Kelly, if they had not made any of those moves in the portal, I don't know if I would call them a top 10 team. With what we saw to Devin Brown last year, it would be Devin Brown still can't get over his number, fighting 2 true freshman quarterbacks with losing a lot of talent in their skill positions. But they did get Will Howard. They do have Chip Kelly. And that's kind of why they are where they're at. And with the conversation we just had, their defense, still some questions on it just because their offense didn't play all that well in the spring game.
Yeah.
I know this team moved up quite a bit. Number 5, Alabama. I think Kalen DeBoer leading this team, and specifically the offense, will have them scoring a ton of points. Talked about it last week on how great the offense looks. The defense was either greatly outmatched by the offense or the defense is bad to real bad. still don't really know. I don't think we'll know until probably the Georgia game. If I'm being completely honest, their front half of the schedule is pretty easy. Maybe the Wisconsin game, dare you rate
Yeah.
going against what we saw out there, that could be interesting.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it'll take a couple of weeks before we know into the actual season before we know anything about the Alabama offense or defense.
Hmm.
Number 6, I've got Oregon. If they'd been able to beat Washington once last year, one of the two times, I think I'd probably have them ahead of Ohio State. The problem is they lost that first game from coaching decisions and defensive adjustments in the second half with a defensive head coach. We talked
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
true.
We talked about it in the first episode this week. It takes coaches a few years to get those in-game adjustments right. Are we in the first year that Dan Lanning gets those right? I'd love to think so. But as of right now, we don't necessarily have a reason to believe that he can make those in-game adjustments in close games. Um, but I do hope they do that because I would love to see Ohio State lose to Oregon. It's in Eugene, about
Hmm.
the halfway point in the season, early October. Um, but they'd be fourth if it weren't for those in-game adjustment questions.
And I think like Dan Lanning's the 5 losses that he has in his career. I think 3 are to Washington, one's obviously to Georgia in his first game, and I don't know what I think the other one was like Oregon State.
I
So
think it was Oregon State his first season out there.
yeah.
Um, Number 7, Missouri. I think we came away from the spring game with more questions about the offense than the defense, which was unexpected to me at least, replacing Blake Baker, losing him to LSU, but returning the offense coordinator and starting quarterback. I expected the offense to be humming and the defense to struggle a little bit, but they could be holding stuff back as a spring game. Don't want to read too much into it. That's why Missouri is still in this area in my top 10 because I have confidence in what they'll be able to do during the season. I think they got an easier slate than a lot of SEC teams. Um, but questions about the offense. Number 8, Arizona. They're returning 70% of their offensive production from last season. I know they have a new staff. But the new head coach, Brent Brennan, that's a mouthful. Um, he brought San Jose State to a level of play above the Mountain West standard in his time there. Dino Babers, former Syracuse head coach, the new offense coordinator out in Arizona. Last time he was in offense coordinator was at UCLA in the early 2010s and had, I think his last offense there had 2,000-yard receivers and a 1,000-yard running back, so he can obviously coach offense.
Hmm.
Um, and he's now going to have just as much, if not more, talent at Arizona than he did at UCLA back in the day. And for anybody that's listening to this that says, man, who cares what Dino Babers did 10 years ago at another school? We had hope and faith in what Mike Bobo was going to be able to do after not having a good offense for 10 years. We're going to do the same for everybody. I don't
Hmm.
care. If they've
Yeah.
shown they can do it before, I'm going to trust them until they lose that trust.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
9, and this is where the surprises start coming in. 9, I've got Clemson. I liked everything I saw during the spring game except for the offensive line play. Good news for Clemson. They have two good to great quarterbacks that are mobile, that have the same level of play, if not. That was weird. If not, the backup might be a little bit better as far as arm strength and accuracy. So if one of the guys gets hurt, next man up. It shouldn't be a problem with the level of quarterback play they have available to them. Got a lot of talent at the skill positions. Not to mention they play in the ACC. Defense, one of the best front sevens in college football. They're going to get to the quarterback a lot for a lot of these teams they're going to play against. So the secondary won't get challenged as much as they would if they played in another conference. But I got Clemson at 9. I don't even know if I would argue putting Clemson anywhere between 7 and 10, really. I,
Yeah.
I I liked what I saw a lot out of them out of spring, which not real happy about it considering they're the first game of the season.
Yeah, right.
10. Utah. My surprise out of the top 10. Cam Rising being back on the field. They have the ability to win a ton of games. He threw multiple touchdowns over 45 yards during the spring game, and that's against a Kyle Whittingham defense. Um, so I think that they'll be good, if not better, than they were in 2022. They got a few guys out of the transfer portal on offense. I want to say they took two receivers from Southern Cal. Um, and the defense, like I said, Kyle Whittingham defense, they're rarely bad. Have an SEC style defense, physical as hell, everywhere on the field. This is a program that managed an 8-5 record last season with a single threat offense, and it was barely a threat.
Yeah.
So with Cam Rising back, I think the sky's the limit with Utah going to the Big 12.
I mean, shoot, Cam Rising was in Stetson Bennett's like high school recruiting class. So I mean, he's been around
Yeah, I mean, at this point in Utah, I don't know if he's a Mormon or not, but he's probably on his second marriage with 8 kids.
at least. Shoot, man. I mean, he's a veteran for sure. Um, so I like a lot of what you said. You obviously spent a lot more time with the spring games than I did. Kind of going back to last week that we talked about that stuff a little bit. But with my post spring top 10, I don't think it changed a whole lot from before. So I'll kind of go through it fairly quick because we, again, for the most part, I think we have the same teams, maybe just a spot or two different. One, Georgia, like you mentioned, nothing really has changed. If I could feel even better about how I did at the end of last season, I may feel good compared to like what we saw in other places. But they're a national championship favorite for a reason, and I don't think they did anything to get warrant getting moved down at all. Two, I have Texas. Really, it's kind of the same deal. I mean, they do have some offensive pieces to replace, but it doesn't seem like they've missed a whole lot, at least in the spring game. Quinn Ewers looked fine. Arch Manning looked good against the second team defense, like you mentioned. And they still have Sark calling plays, so I mean, I'm still confident in them being a great team. Three, again, like you mentioned, I have Ole Miss there. Love Jackson Dart, love Lane Kiffin, just love the vibes going in Oxford. They made some additions on defense, added some weapons on offense as well. Uh, so I mean, again, I feel really, really good about them kind of going forward. Four, I actually have Oregon there. I think um, just kind of seeing how they really didn't miss a whole lot with Dylan Gabriel as their quarterback now. I mean, he's just a left-handed Bo Nix. Um, I mean, both have been, around college football for a long time, so I don't think they're going to miss a beat with that. Probably my favorite at least to win the Big Ten, besides for Ohio State, kind of right, neck and neck. But like you said, they play each other kind of the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think those two are really the two leaders in the Big Ten without much of a question.
Yeah, Michigan's definitely not in that. I actually, while you were talking, I took Michigan out of my top 10 and put somebody else in there, but I'll get to that. Because I mean, again, I don't have Michigan in there, so I'm not going to talk about them. But did I talk about Ohio State already? I can't remember. I think I left off at
No,
Oregon.
you left on Oregon.
Okay, so at five, I have Ohio State. Um, I wasn't. I think I dropped them from my post like portal or after season like my early top 10. I think they fell. I wasn't super impressed by what I saw out of the quarterbacks when what I saw out of the spring game on Fox. I mean, there's a couple picks. I mean, the defense looked better, but again, it's a spring game. You take out of it what you want to take out of it. I mean, the defense picked off their quarterback. I think all of their quarterbacks that played, I think they each had a interception that decent plays by the defense. For the most part. But again, I have Ohio State at five until they get their quarterback situation figured out. I could easily drop them further than that if I'm being honest with myself. Um, Six, I actually moved Alabama up a little bit. I think 'cause again, I think we poo-pooed. I don't think we did. I think a lot of people poo-pooed Kalen DeBoer when he got brought in, but we banged the drum for him quite a bit last year. I thought Texas A&M would have been a good spot for him uh, prior to Nick Saban retiring. So I mean, he's going to do fine there. I think it was good from what I saw out of their spring game. Again, nothing you know too alarming, at least again from what I noticed. But I got Bama at 6, 7 Missouri. Still got Brady Cook, still got Luther Burden. You don't have Cody Schrader, who signed with I think the Niners. I think because he
Wait,
wasn't drafted.
Cody Schrader wasn't drafted?
Nope.
So you're telling me, hold up.
Yeah, that guy was not drafted.
So you're telling me Marshawn Lloyd, who I still have an instinctual love for Green Bay. I don't follow him as much anymore, but he got drafted by Green Bay in like the third round. A guy
Did
that
he?
did,
Did he really?
yeah, it was third or
Holy
fourth.
shit. Okay. Still, wow. Okay.
A guy who did next to nothing of note at South Carolina and then Southern Cal. You're telling me he got drafted, but the
Yeah. Right.
best running back in the best conference in college football went undrafted, and now you're telling me San Francisco has two white running backs who are phenomenal.
It's not fair.
Okay, I didn't mean to derail you. I just
I don't know. It's crazy because I thought for sure he would have been drafted
I
somewhere. Like kind of. I mean, same thing with Kendall. I was surprised Kendall didn't get drafted. I know there's injury concerns, but
and I understand running backs are devalued, but you're telling me I already talked about it with Kendall Milton, but averaged over 100 yards a game and over 2 touchdowns a game in the last 7 games of the season, where it was all SEC opponents, Georgia Tech, and then Florida State didn't get drafted. And then the best running back in the SEC did not get. Okay. All right. I got to shut
yes,
up. I got to shut
no,
up.
it's wild. No, it's crazy. The rich get richer in Santa Clara for sure. Um, oh yeah, but I had Missouri at 7, 8. I actually swapped out Michigan and put Clemson here at number 8. Kind of based off of what you talked about with them. I'm gonna take your word for it.
Hey,
Um,
look,
yeah,
if anybody, you included, goes on ESPN and watches the full Clemson spring game, it was the most entertaining spring game I watched. Far
Mhm.
and away. You have Dabo on the field commentating. You hear him yelling at players. The commentary crew was engaging and funny, and because they had Dabo on the field, they didn't have to be like quarterbacks rolling right out of the pocket
Mhm.
and misses. Like it was just like three guys were sitting at a game watching, and somehow they were talking to the coach over the sideline.
Yeah. I'll check it out this week for sure.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Especially now that we're out of draft season, out of everything. Really it's a dead period for football outside like the UFL or whatever. But here we are. Um, yeah. So I had Clemson at 8. Notre Dame I have at 9 again. It's just because I like Riley Leonard. That's really it. Marcus Freeman. This is going to be his third year with the program. I would expect them to get better than some of the mental mistakes that they had last year. Again, talking about going back to the last episode. He was a first time head coach at a big time program. So getting, kind of working the kinks out and kind of, finding his way. I think, year 3 for him should be better. I mean, they should be a playoff team, but we'll see. And
So, question about Notre Dame.
okay,
What do their skill position players look like?
great question. I know they don't have the running
Audric
back that we
Estimé.
like. Yeah, he went. Yeah, he got drafted. Um, Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what their skill positions look like
So
at this
I
point.
I kind of ran out of time to do research on it because I wanted to dig more into Notre Dame. Um, but that was the only thing that really stopped me is because Riley Leonard needs guys to throw to, and
Yeah,
I'm not sure what their wide receiver and tight end room looks like.
yeah, it's something to look into. this offseason before we do like a preseason top for sure. Because I mean, yeah, I don't know how active they've been in the transfer portal either, besides getting Riley Leonard. So I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm doing the lazy thing that a lot of sports media does. Like, you know what? After the top six, seven, fucking throw Notre Dame in there. They're probably good. I don't know. Um, Honestly, I probably should have switched Notre Dame and Arizona, but I'm just gonna leave it as is. And then I have 10. I have Arizona, for all the reasons that you had talked about before. And again, mainly being Noah Fafita, just being a freaking star.
Yeah, for
And then
sure.
going to the Big 12 again should be good for Arizona. Um, they might benefit the most from them and Utah, I guess. Well, Utah was usually really good in the Pac-12. They won a couple championships, but I think Arizona is going to benefit quite a bit from this move from the Pac-12, Pac-10 to the Big 12. So they'll be better off, and it's a better basketball conference at this point too. So everything's on the up and up for Arizona.
Are we gonna both have Big 12 bandwagon teams this year? We don't have to
It,
pick yet,
it,
but a Big
it might
12
be.
team did bite you in the ass last year. So just
They
something to think
they
about.
did. I'm gonna go more so off of what I see and feel more than just like sharps in Vegas when I went with that. So yeah, learned my lesson.
All right, guys. So that is our post spring top tens. If you disagree, let us know. If you agree, let us know. If you hate us, you can let us know. Uh, I
Not,
rarely respond to texts from my friends, so probably won't respond to that either, but feel free to talk to us.
not hard to find.
Very much not. I do want to give a little bit of update about baseball and softball. So, this week, Georgia played two top five teams in baseball. Um, Started with that game against Clemson on Tuesday, right after we released the episodes. They beat Clemson in 15 innings. If you didn't watch that game or you turned it off after nine, I don't blame you.
Right.
This was the same day that the Braves had a complete game shutout against the Marlins that lasted about an hour and a half. Georgia game lasted 5.5 hours.
Do you want to know something funny
What's
about
that?
that? So Coach Shepard, who we had on I think last summer,
Yeah,
his son is a senior at Georgia. He actually went to the Braves game that day. They're listening to the Georgia game on the way home, and they're like, "Holy shit, it's still going. We can get in." So they went to the Braves game, and then they finished up at Foley Field, watching the last I think 4 or 5 innings of that game.
that's insane, and I'm jealous.
Yeah, I don't know.
Um, but Georgia won this game 4-3 and 15 because Georgia had they like in the 13th inning they started bringing in starters to throw one inning because they had run out of bullpen arms.
Mhm.
Clemson started doing that in the 14th inning, pulled a starter in for the 15th, threw a wild pitch with the bases loaded. The rest was history. Um, but that was also the game that Jaden Rashada was at. I'm not saying this is true, but if I saw it's 1 o'clock in the morning and the 20th ranked baseball team is playing the number five baseball team, and I'm like, what's the fan experience like here? And you have a half capacity crowd 5.5 hours into the game that goes ballistic when Georgia beats number five.
Mhm.
You're just thinking about what it would be for football.
Yeah.
Probably a part of the recruiting pitch.
Mhm.
This weekend, Georgia lost to Texas A&M Friday. First game of the doubleheader, they got run ruled. It's pretty brutal. I personally turned that game off when Georgia was losing 12-9 and allowed a grand slam. Eighth inning or seventh inning at the time, I was like, yeah, it's probably over. I'm just
Well,
gonna.
and they were up 9-0, weren't they?
Yep, 9-0 first inning, and then gave up 19 unanswered.
That sounds like my team.
Yeah, yeah, that was tough. But Georgia did find a way to win that third game against the number one team in baseball Saturday afternoon. Not only did they win, that's only the second time Texas A&M has lost at home this season.
Nice.
Big, big moment for Georgia. I said it earlier in the week. If they could find a way to split these four games between two top five teams, it would do a lot for their seeding come the regional. But this weekend, they got a Tuesday game against Kennesaw State. Noted Kennesaw State either beat South Carolina or Florida at some point this year. One of the two. Don't really remember. Still a significant game. Then a weekend series against Vanderbilt, who is
Ooh,
currently ranked 11th. So
okay.
this will be Georgia's third weekend series in a row against a ranked team. Um, and then next weekend, they have South Carolina, who is ranked. And then to finish up the regular season, they have Florida.
Okay.
Florida's had struggles this season.
Yeah.
You know what Florida did this past weekend?
Shit the bed.
No, they took one game against number two ranked Arkansas in Arkansas.
Oh, that's okay.
So they're a scrappy fighting team as well. They will give up home runs, something Georgia's good at. Oh, bury the lead. Charlie Condon has the single season and all-time home run records for the University of Georgia. Not only does he have those records, he got those records in two seasons. Every
Yeah.
other player in the top five has at least three seasons. Two guys in the top five have four,
That's insane. Good for
and
Charlie.
Charlie did it in two.
Mhm.
So
Not even two. We still got a couple more series left.
yeah, not even two. He could add to that.
Mm.
He's currently, I believe, still leading the. I think he's still leading college football or college baseball as well. So insane what's going on there. Do you want to switch over to softball real quick because the ladies had a tough weekend. They are still over 500 in conference, but the later they get into conference play, the more they seem to struggle a little. Overall, 37-13 going into the season, they were ranked 11th.
Mm.
They had a weekend series against Florida. I want to say it was to finish the season. No, one more series. I lied. I apologize. They lost 2 of 3 to Florida. Georgia was ranked 11th. Florida was ranked 12th. Pretty even matchup. They did lose 2 of 3, so it'll probably be opposite. Florida will be ranked a little bit ahead, but they do have a game or a series in Stark Vegas this weekend. So currently, I want to say Georgia is going to be the fourth seed in the softball tournament. I have to double check that. Um, but sweep the bad dogs this weekend. Maybe move up a little.
There we go.
Um,
For the record, Charlie Condon, he still leads Division One baseball in batting average, and he's still first in home runs. He had 26 home runs. He's one ahead of
wait, did you
Florida.
say 26?
Yeah, he has 26.
No, he has 29.
Does he? Oh, this is updated on Friday. Never mind.
Yeah, he's got 29 now.
Oh, okay. Damn. Okay. Okay. So he was just one home runner ahead of Florida's Jack Caglione.
Yes.
I-
That I'm not even gonna try to pronounce his name. You did a great job. He led college baseball last season.
Jack Caglione. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean Charlie Condon. If you haven't seen it, Texas A&M, when there was nobody on base and Charlie Condon came up to bat, they just sent their short. They literally gave their shortstop an outfield glove, and they had four outfielders.
Um, not the worst idea.
You don't have. I mean, there's no shift rule in college baseball, so they said, if he gets one through the infield, cool, but we're not going to let him get one dropping in the outfield.
Yeah.
And at the very first time Texas A&M put four people in the outfield, Charlie Condon hit a 440-foot home run over their scoreboard.
Hmm. I mean, he's damn near batting 500.
Yeah, yeah. It's I don't look. I've been pretty good at a lot of things in my life. I've never been as good at anything as Charlie Condon is at hitting a baseball, which is
Same.
the hardest thing to do in all of sports, I
Hmm.
think.
Yeah,
So, man, if he'd have been able to start his freshman year, let's go.
right.
If
Smashing.
Georgia had a better pitching staff this year, let's go. I mean, losing a game 19-9 is just tough. Scoring 9 runs in a game
And
should
still
be
getting run
easy.
rolled. And
Yeah,
getting run rolled. But that's, I mean, they've only been run ruled twice this year, right? It's
I believe so.
like Tennessee and then this one, I
I
think.
I believe so. But they also run ruled Tennessee. So,
Yeah, there you go.
um, all right, guys. I know this is a little bit shorter, but that's kind of what we're trying to do with the new format. So, if you're not already, follow us on social media. Instagram's at nothing.finder.pod. Twitter is at finderpod. Facebook and YouTube, just search us there. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. TikTok is Nothing Finder Podcast. Got it right twice in a row.
Yeah, there we go.
And share the show with your friends, like I talked about off the top. If you know somebody that doesn't listen, send the show to them. If they don't like it, take their phone, subscribe, rate us 5 stars. You know, force people.
You right. Force feed them. Spread the
Stockholm
gospel.
Syndrome's a thing. It works. Just do it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but as always, guys, remember there's nothing finer in the land.
And a drunk, obnoxious Georgia fan.